Okay. Authenticity. Ben Lisley, in The Almost Palpable Presence of the Past, Baseball Memory and Nostalgia at the End of the Century, talked about the Oakland A's and the Minnesota Twins in retro 1901 uniforms. And what's interesting is in the 1901s, the Minnesota Twins didn't exist. They were the Washington Senators. In 1901, the Athletics were not in Oakland, but in Philadelphia. These costumes were used in the 1980s. And also, they had a lot of African Americans on the team in the 1980s. But in 1901, there were no African Americans on the Philadelphia Athletics. Well, you also see things like the Braves revived the tomahawk symbol. This is a historical pantomime. It deflects attention from the real history of the teams to a sort of concocted authority. The revival of team symbols and the retro uniforms assert authority and authenticity and a connection to the past and to tradition. And we see this in superhero costumes. Alex Ross, in Kingdom Come, when he made the black Superman chevron, that ties in with the Fleischer Superman cartoons from the 1940s. So it pulls on a specific point. So this helps to create a sense of continuity with Superman. Who is that Superman? Well, he's definitely the Golden Age Superman. He's the original Superman. And that helped to establish that identity. Batman, you'll see sometimes he has a bat, and sometimes he has the bat in the moon. And that's because the bat in the moon came up in the 1960s. So when Frank Miller put Batman back in the original costume, with the original chevron, that established a kind of legitimacy and authority to what he was trying to do. Captain America, in his initial costume, as you saw before, he had a triangular shield. Well, you see that in Alex Ross's new costume. You see that in his chest. It pulls on the original idea of the triangular shield. And so that establishes a sense of continuity and authenticity. In the other image there it's the Captain America from a series called The Ultimates. And if you look at his helmet, he has a chin strap helmet. That's a real helmet. And he sort of has fatigue pants. And look at his boots. Those aren't superhero outfits. That is, in a sense, to build authenticity because those connect directly with images that we all have in our minds of World War II. And yet, it's a superhero costume. In the Iron Man film, they put him in the gray armor to begin with because that's the armor from the original Iron Man. And so it draws on that sense of authenticity. And what's interesting is Daredevil, while it happens sometimes, Daredevil as the metaphor of the devil, works much better in the red costume on the right than in the yellow and black. And so with Daredevil, it's a little bit different. Now, if everything I've said, if it makes sense, you should be able to pick this up. Who is that? Can anybody tell me who that's a picture of? Stephen Colbert. This is a costume, an identity that my brother and I came up with specifically for this talk. True blue and seen red, the American or the American icon. Now his costume has several, if he didn't have a cape and he didn't have a chevron, you wouldn't really get that he's a superhero. So the cape and the chevron place him in the superhero community and announces superhero identity. The eagle, Stephen Colbert uses an eagle in his opening. The eagle is an American icon. He also is attached to Steagle Cobeagle the Eagle, the Saginaw Spirit hockey team mascot. His cowboy boots and his cowboy shirt are American icons, and they represent the cowboy politics of the character, the persona that he plays on stage, on his show. And the flag, an American icon, but he also wraps himself in the flag. Literally, there's pictures of him wrapped in the flag. But it's also character-specific. He has wrist-strong gauntlets. He got his powers because of his wrist injury in an attempt to repair them. But that represents if you've seen the show, it represents his self-aggrandizement and his narcissism, the character, the persona. And his shirt collar, right, it's a pundit's tie and collar. So that signals that this is a parody. It's a little bit of satire just as his character on his show is. So all of that embodies his character and gives him, this costume would have great credibility if it were used to create a superhero for Stephen Colbert. Well, future research, because these are only notes towards a theory of superhero costuming, color theory, masks and masquerade, uniform theory, and more parallels in circus performer, strongmen, military uniforms, and sports uniforms. Is my work cited? And we're going to move on right now to the writers panel. So, writers. Thank you.